Welcome! Today we've got to talk about Oathstones, Tier, the new raid, and its cinematics. The first raid tier actually having nice pre-rendered cinematics is fantastic compared to Shadowlands, and there's a lot to break down today with the narrative. You're going to learn all that you need to know of the story in case there are elements that you missed, or you're just not someone who likes reading the quest text. Then we'll deal with some lovely, dangly plot threads. But first, let's pay the bills with today's sponsor. Brilliant! Brilliant is the best way to learn new STEM topics, improve your prospects, and better yourself, all via their fantastic site and app. The first 200 click my link get 20% off. They're awesome. They teach via interactive quizzes with fun, curiosity, inspiring problems, and it's all learning by doing where making mistakes is okay. Now, I have been binging For All Mankind, and I've been keeping up with the Artemis program. So when I found out that Real Engineering, one of my favorite YouTube channels, has done a course on Brilliant, I was very happy. So, why not just throw your payload into space? Pretty intriguing prospect. And yes, today we're learning about tether launchers, which throw stuff into space. It's a pretty wild idea, but the engineering checks out, especially because through the whole course and its modules, you learn literally how all of it works. We go through material choice and further optimizations to see what a space-ready launch system would look like. That's a great way to learn some maths, learn some materials, all in a really awesome problem done by Real Engineering. Brilliant does a simply incredible job of explaining difficult subjects, genuinely helping you grow your mind. I mean, straight up, STEM skills enrich your brain, they give you more powerful cognitive arms to deploy in your day-to-day life. So don't sponge in facts learning the boring way, learn by doing at brilliant.org/Bellular Warcraft, where the first 200 to click get 20% off their annual subscription. Thanks crew, it legit helps build our team, which is now just shy of 20, and keep them secure. In the leveling campaign, we empowered the Oathstones. Now these admittedly did feel a bit like MacGuffins, but overall I liked the campaign. Their direct purpose isn't massively clear, they are more often described as being symbolic of the Dragon's covenant with the Titans. As they are attempting to restore more of their power though, we can assume that there is actually a function to these Oathstones and that it is related to the mechanics of how the aspects were actually empowered, meaning the Oathstones do serve a major purpose. Essentially, it seems that when the Dragon Isles awakened, the aspect saw this as an opportunity to return home and to undo the damage that the whole Dragon Soul and Deathwing escapade caused. Alexstrasza puts it as us helping them remember their calling. I do wish they were a bit more clear on what that actually means, but the point is, these Oathstones are important. They mechanically seem to serve as almost a conduit of Titan power, the sorts of power that, of course, was actually used to uplift these aspects to being the aspects, and that's essentially that. When we left things off at the end of the level up experience, Alexstrasza was taking some time to work on the Mother Oathstone. This would be the key to them regaining their full level of power. Later on then, we find that Tyr left a silver scale behind. He explained to the dragons that he must go and defend sacred knowledge that only him and his keepers could know, that the dragons could not follow him and render unto him their aid, and that the silver scale would reveal its purpose in a time of need. Well, that time is now. We find more messages from Tyr, saying that if we're hearing him in these messages, then it is that time of need, and that he is no longer among us. The message then instructs us to take the scale to a forge. This plan, known as the Silver Protocol, resulted in essentially a blank body of Tyr being forged. No one is home. It is but an empty vessel. Tyr, of course, was defeated many thousands of years ago. Yet, before he left on his grim final mission, he sowed the seed of his own return. A record of his memories existed within Uldaman, until very recently. If you remember the end of the Uldaman dungeon, you'll know that that record, those memories, that disc was cast into the timeways by the infinite Dragonflight. They clearly wished to disrupt Tyr's return. There's a high likelihood then that if we do recover that, we will in a sense get Tyr back, but it won't really be Tyr. I do believe that the consciousness of Tyr probably did end, and that this is a copy, and that this new Tyr will know that while he has all of the memories of the Tyr that did exist, that he in a way is a copy of consciousness, or perhaps a motive Tyr's consciousness will be stored within that message. Right now, it is hard to know. What we do know, though, is that the Aspects clearly missed Tyr. They considered him a dear friend. Tyr undoubtedly was that. He was deeply fond of the Aspects. He always advocated for them, even brushing up against Odin over Dragonkind. However, Tyr was still a Titan Keeper. He oversaw the Halls of Infusion, which infused Azeroth with Order magic, ostensibly to cleanse Void corruption, and, per Steve Denuser, nudge them into an ordered way of thinking. Some people would say that is just a bit suspicious. What secrets did he leave? What was that sacred knowledge? What did Tyr discover? While we go through the Uldaman dungeon, we do see little data logs, right? Little messages, including ones from Tyr. Many of these predate or are in and around the betrayal of Loken, the falling out with Odin, the demise of Tyr. It's all very interesting stuff that denotes, well, internal communications between the Titans' keepers. It's a period of mystery. And essentially, we do not know what Tyr learned. When push comes to shove, he is a being of order. Or perhaps, maybe, he will have a surprise in store for us. While Algalon the Observer seemed like a cold computing machine, whenever we defeated him, he realized, well, his computations are not the be-all end-all, and this cold computing machine decided not to activate the Halls of Origination and to re-originate the planet. This does show that these Titan beings, while they are made of steel and silver, while maybe they have mechanical brains or form of soul that is not the same of a mortal, they very much can act in a soulful way. The main campaign then continues, with the Aspects planning to channel the power of their restored Oathstones into the Mother Oathstone. But of course, the Mother Oathstone is a wash. Nothing happens. Razageth arrives. Titans abandoned. Proved unworthy. Now is our time. And with that, the raid begins. But the question is, did the Titans actually abandon the flights? Would the Titans themselves need to directly be called upon here? After all, the Titans themselves did empower the Aspects through their keepers. Now, if their direct conscious involvement is required, then did they abandon the flights? Or has the ending of the Legion expansion left them unable to respond? When Legion ended, the Titans imprisoned Sargeras. Doing so clearly uses either a lot of their power or that of the seat of the Pantheon. Sargeras' smaller form appears within the beam of light, almost sucked out of the massive, greater than a planet-sized, maybe nebula-sized form that he held. It appears within the beam of light. Illidan says, "At last," and that's it. We see no more. The presumption has been that this was a win for multiple of our enemies, because sure, we prevented Sargeras from destroying the planet. That was really good for us, because we live there, but it's also good for people who want to claim its power. If Azeroth is destroyed, they cannot claim its power. The defeat of Argus caused the Arbiter of the Shadowlands to blue screen whenever somehow Argus's soul smashed into her, and per Xal'atath, Team Void appeared to be quite pleased that the Titans were off the scene. This maybe gives us an indication that the Titans are just predisposed. Whatever's going on up there, they're not really able to respond. Truly, we have no idea what happens to the Titans and Illidan after that final voice line in that cinematic. Where did they go? Did they go to the Plane of Order? Did they go somewhere else within the Great Dark? Are the Titans incapacitated? Are they rendered unable to pay attention to Azeroth? Did Sargeras do something? Did he break out? Did Illidan hunt him? We do not know. As Elune, though, being unaware of events in the Shadowlands, as that shows, being a celestial being does not make one an omnipotent intelligence. The failure of the Oathstones to act has clearly been framed as the Aspects being abandoned by the Titans. Now, Razageth would want to say that because she would want to rattle their confidence. It's clearly not that, though. I mean, Incarnates winning would be against all the Titans labored to achieve. So it's not like the Titans would abandon them out of spite. And I think this is our first hard hint that something interesting may be going on with Illidan and his new chums. If that Mother Oathstone is the final phone home, and when it phones home, there is no response, then I think that indicates something has happened. I want to engage with the potential plot hole time. Khadgar was there on the Vindicar. He knows roughly what's going on. Our characters were there. Now, if the plot moves towards the idea of the aspects feeling sad that they have been actively abandoned by those whom they served, then I think that would be a narrative issue, because that story would wholly hinge on us not telling them what we know, our characters that is, and Khadgar not doing the same. And that is extremely unlikely, because Khadgar and Kelagos are good friends. They've done a lot together, and they are both members of Dalaran's Council of Six during Legion. But I do not think that the aspects will believe that the Titans abandoned them. I think they will realize that something bizarre is going on, and that their immediate next step will be that new vessel of Tyr, and how they can recover his memories so that they can find out whatever secrets Tyr's memories may have held. And I think that will be the key to working out the broader Titan story. For the raid, shock horror, we do indeed defeat Razageth, but in the process she frees her kin, ones who are almost a counterpart to the aspects themselves, and they are a fearsome bunch, especially Iridikron. Khadgar and Kelagos, and us, bounce, and we later debrief with Alexstrasza. In this cinematic, we see that she feared the worst and that she was right to. The Incarnates are free. They are free to follow their de facto leader, Iridikron. Now, at this point, the timelines become hazy and dark to Nosdormu, and then we learn that while the others did join the war and they did believe in the cause of the Primalists, the almost, reject the Titans, return to Monkey, with return to Monkey basically being everyone's tried to control Azeroth. Void has, Azeroth has, or Titans have, but before all of this, it was just Azeroth and her elements. So they are true believers in that. And Iridikron is framed as being that at the start, but he is the one who truly embraced the war. At what point does fighting the war and winning become more of a motivation than your ostensible reasons for starting that war in the first place? He is described as being brutal, and much like Neltharion, the aspect of Earth, he also struck a terrible bargain to keep his cause alive. Of course, during the Legacies cinematics, we catch a glimpse of Deathwing's journey toward madness. With the Drakthir army he engineered to destroy the Primalists on the back foot, and the unity that he exerted upon them using a Titan artifact destroyed, he turned to the power of Void. He turned to the old gods. Rather than destroy these Drakthir, though, now that he could not reliably control them, he instead chose to put them into stasis. Now, Nosdormu then wonders if he yet had a plan for them. Surely, Neltharion could have just put the Drakthir on ice and killed them all. Why did he not do that? You could then say, perhaps he had not fully fallen. Is this a point where Neltharion had not truly fallen to the madness he would later be known for? Instead, is it a situation almost more like Morozond, who, at the very end of the Cataclysm expansion, did hint at there being a logical reason for the actions that he had taken. We see that in the end state of Nosdormu, we see that in the beginning of the end state of Neltharion. I just think that's an interesting thing to note. So, we've got the Primalist of Earth turning to a terrible bargain. We have the aspect of Earth, the Earth Warder, Neltharion, also turning to a terrible bargain. Which means, what did Iridikron do? We obviously do not know yet. While they do not have their true power restored, then the aspects are at least united, the Isles are united, the Alliance and the Horde are at peace. Khadgar's back, and he's pretty cool. These new Primalists are not new, the rest of them. They're seen as being wise. Basically, Razageth was angry. She was super bitter at her captors because of the whole 10 or whatever, 20,000 years of being put in prison. Iridikron, though, is seemingly more brutal and more strategic, right? Like, cold. One to truly be feared, where perhaps Razageth is the sort of character that could be baited into her own defeat. I don't know, much like, say, the false retreat at the Battle of Hastings, if I was to take a cultural touch point that many people will know. That does mean that Iridikron will return to where he is the strongest, which is somewhere underground. There's been some data mining back in beta that maybe suggested we'll have an underground setting for the next patch. That would make a lot of sense. There's also some Jaredine story that we've been working on that I think fits into this as well, and we will be able to present you with a full where we're going next and what will be happening video likely next week. We then, of course, have got the Titans and the Aspects' relationship with them. That's a major thing that will be interrogated. I think, though, that the Aspects will have to hold their faith that something's went wrong and that they have not been betrayed. They'll understand that first, some sort of bronze storyline will have to happen where we are able to recover that disc that contained, of course, Tyr's memories. And we'll learn a lot more then. But first, we have to deal with the Incarnates. Kaelagos notices, or at least says, look, Iridikron is a super strategic dude. He's not going to be baited. He's not going to do a Razageth and just, blow it all too early. Therefore, we need to go after him. We need to go because he's just broken out of prison. He's going to retreat to his house. If we let him gather his strength, we're screwed. So we need to take the fight. I think that means we deal with Incarnates first. I also think that the other two Incarnates may be reasoned with, because this expansion ended up being, we fight Razageth, then we fight the two other lackey Incarnates, then we fight the big bad boy. I think while that could be a fun fantasy adventure, I have a feeling that thematically, Blizzard may do a situation where we have a story with the Bronze Dragons, we learn an interesting truth with Tyr. Maybe Tyr is a character, and I don't want to make everything like a Star Trek reference about, is Data a real boy? Yes, obviously. But maybe the idea that Tyr is, where his journey goes, ends up being the most human of these big construct fellas. And maybe Tyr realizes, not all is well. Maybe we should do things a bit differently. And maybe that is whatever sacred knowledge he has, right? We don't exactly know. But my point there is, if there is, broadly speaking, a theme of unity, of coming together, could there be a situation where the other two Incarnates may be reasoned with? Razageth was too bitter. Iridikron at this stage seems to live for the war. With the other two Incarnates, though, if we are going to really focus in on a narrative of Alexstrasza truly being a queen, doing not what is emotionally right for her, but what is the best for her people, could something happen there? I actually think that's where we could get a more interesting narrative, where we learn something about, Tyr's revelations. We find a way to rescue the Incarnates from their extremist leader, perhaps unite Dragonkind. After all, us players are literally riding around on a saved Proto-Drake. Tyr had few allies in the end. Obviously, Iridikron first. Maybe we will have a bronze story at the same time. To me, patch 10.1 seems clear. I wonder what the larger threat is. Why did the Infinites want to prevent us from unlocking Tyr's memories? What would we find out? Who knows? It's actually an exciting mystery, though, and I like how this has been done. Blizzard have ended this raid tier with a number of very clear questions as to where we come next that all feel like specific things that we can kind of grapple with, instead of Zovaal being, the next thing's really bad, return to robot. Now, to those of us who are really trying to find every little detail in the lore, we could piece together what we think he's talking about. But from a basic, does the A-plot make sense to most of your players' perspective, it was very lame. So I think things are looking on the up. I'll be actually fascinated and paying attention closely. I hope anyway that you found this video interesting to hopefully tie some of these plot elements together, maybe if you missed them, or if you're maybe just a player who does not enjoy reading quest text, but you want to understand the narrative context of why you're in this raid with these pretty cool looking and sounding dragons. So hopefully that was useful to you. Thank you for watching today's video. There will be many more on the channels. We do intend to keep you entertained and informed throughout the Christmas period. So have a good one. See you next time.